Hey there, this is Pam Perry, and today we are doing an Amazon Live. And one of the things I'm feeling a little extra today because if it goes well, I'm going to have a party. We have Jeff Miller today that is going to be joining us. And so I have the go live button. So we are going to be live on Amazon Live. All right. So it says ready, set, go. Here we go. So I'm going to bring Jeff up in a moment. And I am excited because one of the things about me, you all know that I love books. So books are my thing. And this book right here, The Powers Inside, that's what we're going to talk about today. But let me give you a little bit about who is Jeff Miller. And if you're on Amazon Live and you see us on YouTube and you see us on LinkedIn, it's all good. But the main thing is that we're going to be on Amazon Live because I'm an Amazon influencer. And the influencer means that this is Pam Perrys Picks. This is the name of the show. And I picked this book because we're going to talk about with the author today. But before we kind of get into that, this really talks about the power inside. And we're really going to talk about how Maslow's hierarchy of uh, self-actualization, I guess you would say the hierarchy of needs, the basics starting with the psychological, physiological needs, things like air. We need that. We need water. We need food, shelter, sleep, obviously clothing, sex. I guess maybe some people don't need it, but that's level one. Then there's safety. Then obviously that's personal security, employment, resources, property, health. That's the second level up. Then there's love and belonging. Love and belonging, friendship, intimacy, family, sense of connection. That's really important. That's why when we had the pandemic and everybody shut down and we couldn't see each other, people were going crazy because that's like that third level up of Maslow's hierarchy. Then there's esteem, the respect, the self-esteem, the status. People love recognition. They love that. They love being extra. Strength, freedom. And then at the top level, which is what we're going to talk about today, is self-actualization. And you would say people progress to that, or maybe they go back and forth. We need all of them, but at the very top of the one is the desire to become the most that one can be. And that's what we're going to talk about today, how to become the best you can be. The Powers Inside by Jeff Miller is how to control your destiny and win in the game of life. And this book right here is not just a good book, but let me tell you a little bit about Jeffrey Anthony Miller, or I call him Jeff Miller. That's how I had met him years ago. So I'll give you the official bio and then I'll bring him up, okay? So Jeffrey Miller is CEO of Jammin' 2 Incorporated, the educational media company established more than 30 years ago to help balance mainstream media's one-dimensional depiction of the African American experience. In 1989, Mr. Miller relinquished a successful sales career in corporate America to form Jammin' 2, which became a trendsetter. I was there in Black issues programming way before a lot of people were doing this, way before, I'm not even going to say, and a heavy hitter in the struggle for full inclusion of people of color as valued as U.S. citizens. And then launched in 1999, Jammin' 2 Productions was involved in more than 16 years in the creation, think about this, and distribution of groundbreaking award-winning TV programming, and responsible for the hit television series Transition. Yep, I remember that. And The Edge with Jeffrey Miller, which was the one that won the Emmy that I was a part of. The eye-opening documentary, What's Right, Detroit, and the stunning 90-minute feature, Jamaica, Paradise Unrealized. Amazing. And the riveting expose, Criminal Justice in America, Pipeline to the Abyss. So as an executive producer, principal writer, and on-air talent of Jammin' 2's video production, Jeffrey Miller and his team earned 2 broadcast Emmys, 2 Cable Ace Awards, and 11 nominations for outstanding programming from the National Academy of Arts and Sciences and the National Cable Association. In 2008, he wrote and published his first book and secured distribution for Up From the Under, What We Should Do Next. I remember that, Jeff. This riveting, mind opening audiobook uh, weaves the fascination historical story with a contemporary blend of events and presents a step by step blueprint to follow for a generation seeking the way up from the under, as in the undereducated, the underemployed, the underpaid, the underhoused, the underserved, the undervalued, the underprivileged, and often under attack. Since then, Jammin' 2, Jeff, has worked with Michigan agencies, schools, and nonprofits to design and implement educational programs for citizens stuck on the bottom of society's barrel. You see, Jeff has a string here, right, of where he's going with all of this. For the past 13 years, he's facilitated a self actualization and personal empowerment, not just motivation. Now, this is why I talked about Maslow's theory, self actualization and personal empowerment curriculum designed to change the mindset of failure and after the culture of ignorance that leads to the under. The Empowerment Project with Jeffrey Miller, which is trademark, is about personal upliftment through knowledge. It's about becoming competent, capable, and confident. He'll talk about that in this book. It's about handling conflict, communicating effectively, which he's been doing that for his career, building healthy relationships, which I've known Jeff for about 30 years, embracing responsibility, and learning how to take care of business. His programs provide direction, motivation, and offer a bold, fresh approach. And that's one of the things that we're talking about, empower. So with that, I'm going to bring up Jeff Miller.
How you doing, Pam Perrys? Thank you for reading that long bio. I appreciate that.
It's worth it's so much more that I could say about you, but I wanted to make sure that I gave you that because you were a trendsetter, or you are a trendsetter in terms of all of that. And so I know you walk the talk. This book I'm so proud of because the other one was audiobook. It was good. But this one I love because it is compact, concise, and it's right to the point. It's like in your face.
Right,
It's
in your
punch.
face.
It's like if you're ever like trying to figure out what to do next, this is the blueprint. And so the part of the book that I want to read, it's a groundbreaking book, but it how to control your destiny and win at the game of life. And so really you talk about, since I wrote this book for you and for people you love, it's about the awesome power that lies inside you waiting to be harnessed. It's about the how you summon your power at will and use its enormous energy to fulfill all of your needs and desires.
Exactly.
And when I think about this has been your life. Like this is what you do, but you have this bend, I guess you would say, to want to help those that are on the underserved, the underprivileged. Even you've done some programs and things like in prisons and things like that, community colleges, people who just feel like hopeless. But tell us a little bit about how this journey began for Jeffrey Anthony Miller.
Oh, wow. Let me take you all the way back to the South Side of Chicago, growing up in the projects. No, I won't start there. So thank you for having me on Pam Perrys Picks. First of all, it's an honor to be. You started your piece, and I will answer your question. It fries me when I'm watching a news report and the anchor or the commentator asks a guest a question and they go off on a tangent and take it somewhere else. But to tell you how I got into this whole thing really is where you started this show, Pam, with the Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Mhm.
There's 7. And essentially, when an individual makes it up to the point of self-actualization, they have so-called arrived. They've got it all going on,
Mhm.
But most of us struggle to get out of that first need, taking care of our food and our shelter and our water and the bills and the rent
And the sex.
and trying to get that sex on a regular basis, especially when you reach such an age, but so after transition, and I started transition when I moved to Detroit in 1980. I got here in 1985 for a corporate job.
From Milwaukee or from Chicago? From Chicago.
Well, as a matter of fact, after I graduated from Marquette University way back in the last century, I wanted to be a broadcaster. But at that time, Brian Gumbo hadn't hit the airwaves yet, right? And there were very few Black folks on the air
Very
in
few.
a anchor position. They
Mhm.
were offering me jobs like floor director. They were offering me jobs like cameraman. All of the back house of the jobs. You know, when I had my restaurant jobs going to school, I was always in the kitchen doing the dishes. You know,
Mhm.
they didn't want us out in the main area because, well, you know, we don't want any Black men out here. They might scare our patrons off. My journey mirrors much of America's journey from a Black perspective. I came of age a little bit behind um, the civil rights movement. I was a beneficiary of all those folks who kicked down the doors. I became one of those people who was known as the first and the only. You know what I'm talking about? You're the first Black person we've ever had in a position like this. You're the
Mhm.
only Black person I've ever, or you're not like the other Black people I've known, said some of the clients that I've dealt with in the
They call
history.
that microaggression now.
Well, now, yeah, they got a term for it, but there was nothing micro about it back in the 70s. It was all in your face. And what are you doing here?
Right.
You know, so you had to, you know, as our mamas taught us, as I think we're still teaching our kids,
Suck
when
it
you
up and
show
keep
up for
going.
the opportunity, you got to be better than the rest, and you got to be there first with the most.
Mhm.
That has
Mhm.
always been one of my mantras.
Mhm.
Anyway, I got to Detroit, Pam, and I'd lived in, let me see, I lived in Milwaukee, I lived in Chicago, I lived in Cleveland, I lived in LA. I traveled much of the Midwest. I had regions and districts for these companies that I work for. I'll leave those names out of this mix. And it was a constant struggle of knocking down these doors, but it was okay because that was just what we had to do. But when I got to Detroit, the blackest city in America, still, but certainly then,
Mhm.
I was undone. I was blown away with the overt, in your face raciality of this region,
Mhm.
the overt racism and prejudice, both sides to the other.
Mhm.
And it occurred to me what folks had been saying through my journey in my corporate life. You're not like the other folks we've met. Well, how many folks have you met? Well, we've never met any Black folks. Well, where are you getting this from? And it was clear that they're getting it from the
The
tube,
media.
television, the
Mhm.
media,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Then and now, the not so much now. We've got some positive reflections of Black life, and Black folks are doing things still to a small percentage of the population. But certainly back in the late 80s, early 90s, it just wasn't happening. And so I started transition because I wanted to change the perception of mainstream media of what it was to be and live Black in America.
Mhm.
We did that, as you know, for 12, 13 years and all those awards and everything, which really didn't
Name
mean a
some of
whole.
the people that you interviewed on Transition.
Well, you know, Transition was a newsmaker, opinion shaper, dialogue ideas show. It wasn't a celebrity show, but we talked to the issues of the day. We
Mhm.
covered everything from affirmative action and abortion to xenophobia and zoology.
Mhm.
And along that journey, I wanted to bring in one of the ways I wanted to try to change the perception was if we were going to be talking about any issue, I wanted my talkers, my experts to be Black.
Mhm.
I wanted my professors and my lawyers and my doctors to be Black men and women to subtly influence what we were doing.
Mhm. Mhm.
So to that end, when we did politics, I wanted to interview people like the legendary late Coleman A. Young, the 20-year mayor of the city of Detroit. When we were talking about civil rights and protests and um, all of that type of thing, I brought in Minister Louis Farrakhan,
Mhm.
our 12th show, and it established us because at the time, as you know, Farrakhan wasn't giving too many media interviews because
No.
he was always afraid of being
Attack.
quoted, quoted out of context and you know, taking snippets out. So when
Mhm.
I got him on the show, folks started to pay attention. Farrakhan's talking to Miller. What's he all about?
Right.
we did Randall Robinson. Randall Robinson, Trans
Mhm,
Africa, the guy who
mhm,
got Mandela freed, essentially.
mhm, mhm, mhm.
Trans Africa. And when I interviewed Randall, Pam, you may know he's in St. Kitts now, self exile, basically. He
Ah,
got so fed up with dealing with the raciality in our country that he basically abandoned it after he got shown the door in South Africa.
mhm,
When Mandela was freed and when he became president of the nation, as you know, Shell Oil Company was doing gazillions in South Africa, and they wanted to turn the page on the whole apartheid thing. And
mhm.
so the funding got cut off. Randall wrote his books and left the country in despair. But we did Oprah Winfrey. We did um,
And Randall, for people who don't know, he was Max Robinson's brother. Both.
Max Robinson, the
Mhm.
first black anchor in America on
Yes,
ABC. I
yes,
watched Max and I
love
said,
him.
yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
said, I want to be him. And
yep.
so,
He was
well,
a real deal. He was a
yeah.
real deal. Like you're the real deal. And
Well,
so
thank
when
you.
a lot of people don't know that Jeff is he's an author of this book, The Powers
Powers
Inside.
inside.
But this book here, this is by Ed Gordon. He's also a Detroiter as well. Ed, where is it here? Ed is also wrote a book about leadership and leadership and power. And so this book really talks about leadership, but self leadership, like leadership of yourself, not just really around the community and just being seen and all this about social media, but it's really a guide of how to maximize your
Your full
potential and
potential.
unleash your greatness. And, from all the people he's interviewed, like he said, from Max Robinson to Oprah Winfrey, he's just kind of boiled it down to some nuggets that people can really take and make the best. Now, I will say this about Jeff. Jeff is always on time. He's always going to be sharp, in your face. I've seen him when we produce The Edge with Jeffrey Miller. I would see you, you would study and get those guests. You would have those people on the edge of their seat, the audience, the guests. I mean, so you take the time to really prepare to be great, to be excellent at what you do. And that's why you won Emmys. But one of the things that when you're sharing this with people, and we talked about this in the classroom or in different organizations, nonprofits, even in prisons, how do you get someone who really doesn't seem like they really care and they figure like, well, what is this going to do for me? How do you get them to pay attention? I know for me, I would just be like, I want to stand on the table and scream. But how do you get them to really pay attention to you to help them bootstrap their way out of their situation?
It's not difficult, but it's hard, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
When you walk into a room, and let me back up for a quick minute. The TV piece was fine. Writing Up from the Under was fine. But it wasn't the TV piece and interviewing the names that told me what I needed to do in my books and in my classes. It was 13 years of covering all the issues that affect us all and finding the solutions to those issues from the experts. After I left the airpan, people would come up to me all the time and say, man, what are we going to do about? And then they give me a problem. And I'd ask them, well, what do you think we should do about it? And they say, well, hey, man, I asked you, you're on TV. You're the guy doing this thing. And as I'd leave them, I'd ask myself, well, why are they asking me? How come they're not trying to figure it out? And
Mm-hmm.
then, Pamela, I realized that, you know what, Jeff, maybe you do have some answers. Maybe all those interviews, all that research, all that writing, all those names, all those guests, all that study, maybe you do have some of these answers. So I wrote them in Up from the Under, what we should do next to get out of this mess.
Mm-hmm.
After Up from the Under, I got a call from a state of Michigan. I won't name the agency, but they were dealing with a population of individuals who were trying to get it back together after having fallen off, either being jammed up in substance abuse or incarceration or dropped out of school or whatever the case may be. Now they're out here trying to make it in society and they don't have the tools. They read my book and they thought that I might be able to help some of their clientele get to where they were trying to go. So they called me up and they said, hey, we loved Up from the Under. do you think you might be able to put a curriculum together that will help our guys? And I started with all men, and that will help our guys get up off this under you're talking about.
Wow.
I said, well, I don't know, but let's try it out. And so in '08, we started that with one office. And I've taught, we grew that. I know time is short. We grew that in multiple ways and taught seminars. And I do a 30-hour curriculum, a 6-week program, meets 5 hours a week, 2 sessions, 2.5-hour sessions for 6 weeks. The people who come to me at the beginning of the program, Pam, and I'm not bragging, I'm trying to be as concise as possible. Mm-hmm. People who come to me at the beginning don't have a clue as to how to navigate their world and get to where they're trying to go. 6 weeks later, their attitude now is, show me the mountain I can't climb. Show me the hurdle I cannot jump. But to get there is the answer to your question, because it's tough. Mm-hmm. What is this guy in this suit or this, what does he know about what I've been through and what I've been going through and how I get out of it? And it's not so much what I know as what I show. Mm-hmm. And what I show my students, and I call them all students, what I show my students is a willingness to be vulnerable, a willingness to be stern, a totally professional attitude, and the assurance that if they give me the respect that I need, I'll give them that same respect back tenfold. Mm-hmm. Many people, if I may, the foreword of my book basically sums it up. Remember that old song, looking for love in all the wrong places? Looking for love in too many faces? Looking for love, finding traces of what I've been looking for? And I started thinking about that song because love and power have a lot in common. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people are constantly looking for their power. Mm-hmm. Some people look in the gym to get all buffed up for their power. Mm-hmm. Some people look in the stock market to try to get rich and trade stocks and even do cryptocurrency to try to find financial power. Some people try to have power over other people from a position of power. Mm-hmm. Some people suck up to powerful people, hoping that some of that power might rub off on them. People are running.
You call that clout chasing.
Okay. We used to call it brown nose, and I don't know what it's called,
They call it clout chasing.
Idea. We spend all this time looking for power externally when the power to control our own destiny and drive our lives is already inside us. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so what the book is about is a blueprint to follow. You used that word earlier, in how to get that power out. And mm-hmm. I learned that blueprint from 13 years of the Empowerment Project with Jeffrey Miller in these classrooms. And wow. The book is a compilation of what I learned there.
Wow. And so one of the things your background in broadcasting, advertising, because I saw Byron Allen not too long ago talking the same talk that you were saying probably 25, 30 years ago about how the ad agencies aren't giving Black programming ad dollars. It's like, okay, well, 30 years later, he's still saying, Byron Allen's still saying the same thing, right? And he was really like chastising the ad agencies and things like that, whatever. It's just basically, he says, I'm gonna call it what it is. It's racism. And it's like, okay, well, we know that. What are we going to do? And so you can't really change society, but you can change yourself. So you start with yourself first. And so one of the things that I like about this book, you talk about your principles, and I'm just reading them really, really quick. I want people to get the book. The link is down here at the bottom on Amazon. But one is number one, super literacy is job number one, right? You got to really read. I love reading. Number two, knowing where you came from, knowing your history, knowing where you came from, and not just knowing like if you're a Black person, oh yeah, you were enslaved and all that, but knowing where you came from, knowing where you're headed, knowing how to handle yourself, knowing how to communicate. And, it's a thing where Black people can talk one way with their friends and then another way in corporate. It's called bilingual. So you have to know how to communicate it the right way to the right people at the right time. You talk about that, having options and choices, not being fearful, right?
Hmm.
Not being victimized. I mean, so many
Yes.
times people will fall in that victim role and then stay there and
Yes.
never rise up. Not looking over your shoulder, cleaning up tickets, debts, and financial obligations. That
Yes.
right there will keep people stuck. I'm telling you, because it's like, oh, what the heck? I don't have a driver's license. Well, get one. Figure that out. Uh, you can't get a passport, you can't drive, you can, whatever. Being able to give to others. So that part right there is philanthropy or building philanthropic. And then the last one, number 12, is being able to turn on your own
On
ignition
ignition.
for your own power. And that's just one part of it. That was actually just all in chapter 4, right? But there's some other 7-point action plan in chapter 16. I like the 4 C's that you talk about here: capability, credibility, credentials, and character. And character is one of the things that I think, in this internet world, people put that down. It's like people are so deceptive, and people can be, because they can read all kind of things. They can throw up a website and put up all these fake words or whatever. But
Hmm.
character is important. Character is what you talk about there, and you really explain that, and not just explain it, but you live it. So that's one of the things, that you live it. So I just really appreciate that. The thing I have scrolling across the bottom is your website to find out more about you, because you're available to speak, all that kind of stuff. Empower you.org, that's scrolling across the bottom. But also to people who are on Amazon, and they're actually showing us hearts and loves and things like that, the little stars. Thank you so much.
Okay. Nice.
So this is the third Amazon live that I've done. It's a little bit different than doing like a YouTube live or a LinkedIn live. But I like it because they can go right there and get the book. The Powers Inside is featured. It's 19.95. They can do the one click and get it. And I would suggest that you do it. And it's one of those books where you can read it in like a week or so. You really can. But maybe if you want to take a little bit longer so you can ponder on it, but that's as well. But it's from Jeff's life's experiences, as well as being teaching, being it from that, learning from his students as well, teaching it, and then learning from your students as
That's
well.
right.
What's holding them back? What's blocking them? So, what is like the main lessons you want to leave, or the main points you want to leave with our viewers right now, in terms of how to really, tap into the power inside?
Well, it's all about the potential. We hear this thing all the time. Are you living up to your potential? I don't think you're living up to your potential. Well, what is potential? Potential is your greatness, essentially.
Mhm.
Potential is not just all that you are, but it's all that you can be when you tap into your total essence. And to do that, and I'll be brief, there's 4 elements that go into maximizing your potential. I call it to max your pole:
Match your pole.
mindset, behavior, action steps, and individual planning. Mindset, behavior, action steps, and individual planning. 4 distinct elements, Pam, but they all must work in harmony, in sync together, to produce the result you're trying to get to. I I know my time won't uh, permit me to go through what each of those pieces do. However, uh, it's all laid out in my book, The Powers Inside. But you asked me what I wanted to really leave people with.
Mhm.
Match your pole, because that leads to personal empowerment. Personal empowerment then leads to this whole idea where you started this self-actualization. You're at the top once you hit this personal empowerment piece. Now, you laid out my 12 empowerment principles, knowing where you came from, superliteracy, all that stuff. Everybody's talking about personal empowerment, but nobody lays out exactly what it is and what you will have when you are empowered.
Mhm.
That's why I wrote the book. Let's cut through the noise. Let's see exactly what it is we are trying to do, what we have to do, and find out exactly how to get there. My book
Mhm.
is a guide, a roadmap, and a GPS to follow to get to that place called success.
I love that.
Thank you, Pam Perry.
Woo!
Excited.
Michael Wynn says that he I don't see the link, but is this book one that I can get? Definitely, Michael Wynn. It is on Amazon. It is on Amazon for sure. So Amazon Live is where we're streaming from. He's on LinkedIn, but we're streaming from Amazon Live. So I put
Okay.
the link to go to Amazon Live, amazon.com/live, and then Pam_Perry, and you get it, and you'll see all the books there. Jeff's book is the main one that we're featuring today on Pam Perry's Pick. That one is there as well. So you want to make sure that you're getting that. And Michael Wynn is from Detroit as well.
Okay,
Um,
Michael.
he's a gentleman that is a speaker and all that kind of things. But Jeff is a powerhouse, Michael. It is definitely for sure. Make sure you get it. And thank you all who've been watching on Amazon Live.
I
I'm
love
glad
it.
I'm back.
Okay, Pamela.
All right, all right. So I am Pam Perry, Pam Perry's Picks. This has been a joy to talk with Jeff Miller. He is one of my favorites. And
And you are mine.
again, if you need someone to speak, he's going to do that as well. Make sure you hit him up, but make sure that you get the book, because when you get the book, you actually see how to tap into your own power. So with that, I thank you, Jeff. I will talk with you
Thank you,
later.
Pam. All
All
right.
right. Bye
Appreciate
bye.
the opportunity. Bye bye.